Hello! Happy Thursday evening if you're in the United States. Probably happy Friday morning if you're in a different country. How exciting. We have like 27 hours to go in this crowdfunding campaign, which is so exciting. We're doing the final push. We're getting pretty stoked about it. Hi, Maria. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just sort of checking in, doing my daily check in, and trying to, get the excitement going. We're on the very home stretch of this campaign. Let's check in with our numbers here. We've got $37,671 raised, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's really exciting. You guys have all been so incredible throughout this whole process, and we're excited that it's the final stretch and that we're going to move into post production soon. The excitement's there, it is. Yeah, Yuri and I have been hard at work on getting the season fully ready to shoot. We're really excited about what we got in store for you all. It's going to be a really fun time. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to do maybe a few more interview series, more live streams, things like that. We're going to be live streaming tomorrow night for the actual countdown to blast off. And by blast off, I mean the end of the campaign. So yeah, we're really stoked and just really appreciate how amazing you've all been. Woohoo! In other news, it's my dog's adoptiversary, which is really exciting. She's very cute. This is her. She's sleeping and snoring right now. And yeah, she's a little cutie pie. Where's everyone tuning in from? Yay. I'm in Los Angeles here. Oh, yes, we adopted her 3 years ago on this very day. She's a blind bulldog mix. Oh, thank you. Oh, Chicago. Oh my goodness. You East Coasters, are you completely like snowed in right now? Are you guys all okay? It's like the craziest storm. I'm from Minnesota originally, so man, it's like that that winter cold, that winter storm is not a joke. Ooh, we just got a new donation. Connecticut. Oh my God, you're all East Coasters. Are you surviving the storm? Still alive. I'm very glad to hear it. That is so scary. Couldn't go to work today. It's kind of fun though sometimes. Like if as long as you're safe, like a snow day can be kind of fun because you just like cozy up with your hot chocolate and watch some Netflix and hang out. Um, that's so crazy though. It's so cold there, right? I was home in Minnesota for the holiday and negative degrees all week. Oh, man, so much snow. Sorry, I got distracted reading your comments. When I was home in Minnesota, it was cold and it dropped to like -2, -3. But right as we were leaving is when it plummeted to like those like Mars level freezing temperatures, like the -16 wind chill. And it's like not safe to go outside weather, which is bananas. Oh, no, no, no. -16. No. I say no. It's not nice. It's not nice weather. I lived in Boston for a little while, and it got really cold and really snowy there, too. It was tough. Tough stuff. It sucks to be a smoker. Good motivation to quit. Yeah, man, you don't want to go outside and smoke right now. Absolutely not. 30 this weekend. Man, stock up on all the food and drinks that you need and just stay inside. Don't leave. That is bananas. 27 hours until our Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign is done. So, we've been running this crowdfunding campaign to fund a full first season of Binge, which we're super excited about. We are fully funded. We hit our goal a couple days ago. Our goal was $35,000. We are now at $37,781. And we're just trying to, really push it this last, 26 hours. To see how much money we can raise so that we can make this television show. We're super, super excited. Yeah, we're so stoked. Basically, other than running this campaign, all Yuri and I have been doing is writing and talking and gearing up to go. And we're just so excited to bring this show to you later this year. We're just over the moon. And just so grateful for all of the incredible support that you guys have provided. Oh, thank you, Catherine. So you can find it out. You can find, if you go to Indiegogo.com and just type in Binge, you'll be able to find it. Or if you go on our Facebook or Instagram, you'll be able to find the link to the campaign there too. We're hoping that we can release the show by the end of 2018. If not the end of 2018, the very beginning of 2019. But our goal is the end of 2018 because we just really want to share it with you. We're really, 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 really stoked. Yes, binge watch binge. It's when binging is a good thing. We're really, really excited. We could not have done it without you all. Really, it's just been such an overwhelming show of support, and we're just really excited. We're really, really excited. So yeah, if you've got a friend or a family member who might be willing to throw a couple bucks to the campaign during the last couple of hours, that would be amazing. If you've got an extra $5 from your coffee budget, we're trying to really do a last big push. We got an amazing $500 donation today, sort of out of the blue. That was really exciting. And it's been a really cool month. Thank you, Tiger Girl. It's been really fun. It's been really great. Yeah, we're stoked about it. I have to use money toward my snake's vet bill, Sarah. Yes, I totally understand. We have a dog, a bird, a tortoise, and a bunch of fish, and I totally understand that those vet bills rack up. What kind of snake do you have? I know, I hope that your snake is okay. Hopefully it's just a ball python. What? Are those huge?
No.
No, they're not huge?
No.
How big are they? Okay. Do you hang out with it? Does it come out of the cage? Respiratory infection. Oh, I hope she's okay. What's her name? I'm sending good thoughts her way. I didn't know that snakes could get respiratory infections. Poor thing. Oh man. I love animals. Snakes kind of scare me a little bit. I have 4 snakes. They hang out with me all the time. Her name is Medusa. That's cool. That's really, really cool. Oh, thank you. Medusa. Do you have them around your neck like the Medusa snake hair? That's really cool. I feel like snakes are probably just misunderstood. I just don't like feeding animals. I don't like feeding live things. I get, oh, thank you, Sarah. I get a little bit squeamish. I had a salamander when I was growing up, and it ate crickets, and I got really freaked out. Its name was Kiwi. I don't know why. And I got really freaked out about the crickets, and then my mom ended up just taking care of it all the time. Oh, frozen thawed rats and mice. Oh, go, 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 go. We actually have a mouse in our house right now. Um, oh, I'm so glad to hear that, uniquely rare. Please do keep fighting. You are worth it. Um, we have a mouse somewhere in our house. My boyfriend saw it scurrying the other day, so it's somewhere in here. They're cute, but they make me a little bit like freaked out. Um, oh, the humidity in the tank might have been off. Huh? Who knew? Um, oh, it was because you had to move. Oh, Claire, I'm so glad that you found it helpful. You should definitely look into Project Heal. They're absolutely incredible, and I know that process can just be so frustrating. So I hope you keep advocating and fighting for yourself because you deserve to get treatment. You really do deserve. Oh, thank you. Mice in my walls and they always scare me at night. I know. They're so cute. I just the only thing I worry about is the disease. Like cuz they can bring disease into the house, and I just worry about this little creature. I don't want her to get any sort of disease from it. That's the only thing. Um, I do think they're cute though. Who was your favorite person to interview for the Binge reviews? You know, everyone was fantastic, and everyone brought sort of a new, different perspective that was interesting and challenging and informative. So I didn't have a favorite. They were all equally awesome. It was really a really fun experience. I had a really good time. Um, Let me see. I just got a notification. I'm trying to look at real quick. Oh, we just got a donation. Yay! Um, okay, sorry. Who did I relate the most to? Oh, that's a good question. Wow, we all have struggled from very different types of eating disorders, actually. I guess Meg and I uh like both went through a formal treatment program, so that was something that we really could connect on, but everyone had a very unique perspective, which was really cool, and which was the definite point of the series to really get a bunch of different perspectives in. How do you explain an eating disorder to someone who doesn't view it as a mental disorder? It's a really great question, and it's such a challenge that so many people face because these illnesses are so misunderstood and under talked about. I like to provide people with reading material. Um, if you go to the National Eating Disorder Association's website, they have a lot of great resources. Project Heal. I always like to recommend Carolyn Costin as a good resource. You know, I think taking the burden off of yourself and putting it like on in the hands of scientists and professionals is really helpful because it shouldn't be up to you to you know show these people that's a legitimate mental illness. 1 out of 10 people in the United States will suffer from a clinically significant eating disorder in their lifetime. Um, but it's I feel like it's unfair to ask someone who's suffering from something to sort of defend the legitimacy of the thing that they're suffering from. So that's why I like to bring resources into the conversation because let let the professionals do the professional work, and you work on yourself and fighting for your recovery, if that makes sense. At what point in your journey did you realize you actually had a problem? So I was in and out of my eating disorder for around 10ish years, 9, 10 years. But I knew within the first year that I had a problem. I knew that I couldn't, that my thinking had changed and that my behaviors had changed. And more than anything, that my life and my brain had gotten a lot smaller. What I focused on became very singular, and I sort of fell into a depression. And I knew that something was going on, but it took me quite a while to get to a place where I actually wanted to heal from it. The disease really took a lot from my life and from my experiences, and I got to a certain point where I realized I wasn't really fully living. I wasn't able to be present. I wasn't able to do the things that I loved, and that was a real turning point for me. Claire asks, did you film a lot of the binge reviews on the same day? Yes, we filmed them all on the same day. That's why I'm wearing the same shirt, and why, God, I should have brushed my hair before we shot those, because I watched them and I'm like, oh my God, my hair is so messy on the side. Anyway, I woke up really late that day and was just like, I gotta get to the studio. Does it ever trigger you to play a character with an eating disorder? It hasn't so far. I am solid enough in my recovery, and I've been out of treatment for long enough now that creating Binge is a healing experience and reinforces my recovery and my commitment to it. It's probably the most beneficial thing I've done for my recovery is work on this show. But I do always make sure to say that if I had tried to make this show when I was fresh out of recovery, that it absolutely would have been triggering. I needed to be in a much more solid place in order to sort of go there. Do you consider yourself recovered or in recovery? That's a really good question. So this idea of recovered is relatively new to me. It's an idea that Project Heal is kind of getting on board with. Carolyn Costin is a big advocate of the idea of recovered. I had never thought of eating disorders this way until recently, that it was possible. And I would say I am in late stage recovery, and I'm entering a period of recovered. The term recovered still feels a little bit scary to me, or I don't know, it's just new. I'm sort of wrapping my brain around it. But I definitely still practice tools of recovery, like redirecting thinking, and if I have a day where I don't like what I look like in the mirror, doing exercises in my brain, mental exercises to remind myself that this physical thing is not who I am. Who I am is who I am, and focusing on the things that I love about life and about being alive. So I'm still practicing things, but that kind of mindfulness, I think, is just part of being a human at a certain point too. So I'm sort of still feeling it out, I guess, is my really rambling answer to that question. Have you read Shane Dawson's book, It Gets Worse? He has an amazing chapter on his struggles with bulimia. I haven't. I didn't know that he struggled with that. That's something I'll have to look into. That's really cool that he's been open about that. How do you know someone else has an eating disorder, and how do you talk to them about it? That's a great question, and it's a tricky one, because you can't really know. It's ultimately up to the person who is suffering and their healthcare team to make that assessment. But I think starting from a place of love and compassion and friendship is always really important. Focusing less on what their behaviors are or their physical appearance looks like, and more on who they are as a person and how they might be feeling. So often with eating disorders, we focus on shape and not emotion, and not shame or things, the experience that the individual is having. And I think focusing on who that person is rather than what they look like, or what behaviors they're engaging in is a really great place to start, coming from a place of love and open mindedness. It's sort of a case by case basis depending on how well you know someone. Sometimes writing a letter like, I'm concerned about you. I've been noticing that you seem sad or you seem anxious. What can I do to support you if you might be struggling? And not ask for any sort of result from them. Don't expect them to all of a sudden be ready to get treatment. It often takes people a long time to get there. Other things that can be really helpful are again, resources. I know in one of our Binge reviews, Jenny Sue talked about how one of her friends knew she was struggling and just, was a supportive friend, but didn't bring it up too much because she knew Jenny didn't really want to talk about it, but bought her a book about eating, and that really meant a lot to her. So I think sometimes doing little gestures like that don't come with any expectation, like, I'm giving you this gift, I don't expect you to open up to me or, do anything with it, but I just want you to know that I'm here. That can be a really good place to start. My mom recently said that she was glad I couldn't possibly have an eating disorder because I love food so much. So hard not to laugh because loving food is the whole reason I have an eating disorder. The irony is stunning. Yeah, I mean, that's one of like the greatest misconceptions, that the only form of eating disorder is anorexia. And it's just simply not true. I understand the humor of it, but it's also sad, and it sounds like a really lonely comment. And it sounds like your mom probably doesn't have much education in eating disorders, which, not many people do unless they themselves have struggled or someone close to them. We have a long way to go in our culture in understanding these illnesses. Are there any hotlines for eating disorders? Yes, there are. Google it. I don't have them memorized, but the National Eating Disorder Association has a hotline in the United States, but there are foreign ones. If I can't comment on this while I'm live streaming, but if any of you who are also tuned in can link some of those hotlines and those resources, that would be awesome. People have done that before during this. But there are resources and there are hotlines, and I encourage you to use them. Did I ever struggle with not actually wanting to get better? Like, you knew I had a problem, but you had no intention of getting better. Yeah, definitely. I think that's super common. Even in, I've been to treatment twice, and the last time was successful. But even some days in treatment, I didn't want to do it. And I just kind of forced myself to give over to what my treatment team was telling me to do. But yeah, there were times when I did not want to get better. It's hard, and it takes a lot of energy, and it's scary. And it feels like the great unknown. But one thing that one of my first therapists said to me that has always kind of stuck with me, he was like, you know how to have an eating disorder. You know how to do it. Just try this other thing for 6 months. Just try it out. Try following a meal plan. Just try it out. And if it's not for you, you already know how to have an eating disorder. You can go right back to it. And just hearing that made it so much easier for me to stick to my meal plan and to follow the steps that I needed to take. It's okay to not want it all the time. It's totally normal. Don't feel guilty about it. I mean, I can't tell you how to feel. You're going to feel how you're going to feel. But I would say that that's totally normal, and that's a part of the process. And the most important thing is to keep doing the steps that you need to do to get health, to keep seeing your therapist, to keep seeing your dietitian, to keep following your meal plan, to keep sort of monitoring what you're going through. Let yourself feel those feelings, let yourself sit with that discomfort, but keep fighting for yourself, keep fighting for your future. Did you find that other mental illnesses intensified when you started recovery? Did you end up using other negative strategies to compensate for a lack of an eating disorder? This is a great question and a really common thing. So when I went into treatment, they made us sign a sobriety statement saying that we wouldn't use drugs or alcohol because of that very reason, how it's really easy to replace one behavior with another. So thankfully, I didn't drink or use any kind of drugs while I was in treatment, and that was really, really, really important for me. Important for me to not numb out, to feel my feelings, to sit with discomfort, to be present. And, I think it's, a big part of recovery for me too was looking at how bulimia, the bulimic behaviors, how they reflected in my other life. Because you can be bulimic with your finances, you can be bulimic with your relationships, and oftentimes the way we are with food and eating is the way we are with other things in our lives. So in my work with my therapist, we looked at the way binging and purging was showing up in other areas of my life, and really worked on that and monitored that. And that's life. That's part of the task of being a human being. I still have periods in my life where I spend a shit ton of money, and then the next day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be responsible with my finances. I'm not gonna buy any cups of coffee out in the world. And there you go. And there you can see that binge and purging mindset, that all or nothing mindset. And doing it with how many cups of coffee I'm going to buy from Starbucks is much more harmless than what I was doing with my food. But, these kind of thinking patterns show up in so many different ways for us. And so I think being mindful of that is a really awesome tool you can use. What's my bird's name? My bird's name is Cheryl, named after my mom. Every day I think, tomorrow I can just bring my eating disorder back. Linda, yeah, I understand that thinking completely. And I would just say, yeah. And today, follow that meal plan, shoot for health. And so hopefully every today you shoot for health. And that eventually you'll decide, oh wait, tomorrow I don't want to go back to my eating disorder because it's actually not the best life that I can live. But every day I seem to stick with my meal plan. Yes! Yes! That's great. That's so great. Pretty in Black. I don't have an eating disorder, but I'm a recovering drug addict. I relate so much. Totally. Yeah. Yep. And good for you. And keep on keeping on. That's awesome. Did inpatient care affect you financially? Were you in debt after? I actually wasn't inpatient. So I did a PHP program, which was 6 days a week for like 7 hours a day. And I was really lucky. I was really lucky in that I was still young enough to be on my parents' health insurance. I think I was 26. And my dad works abroad, and he had really good health insurance at the time that I was on. That's not the case for most people. I got really lucky. I was fully insured. Our healthcare system is completely broken, and it really breaks my heart that it's so difficult for so many people to get the care that they need. I was incredibly lucky. How do you handle a negative thought when you have one? I do have them quite often because I'm, a human. What do I do? I try to ground myself in the present moment because, what my eating disorder did most to me besides, completely like fuck up my health and my life was it took me out of the present and kept me in my head in this really small space in my head. So I like to ground myself in the present and where I am, feel the floor beneath my feet, smell what I smell in the air, just get back in my body and get myself back in the moment and out of my head. And I usually find by the time I do that, I don't care about whatever that negative thought was anymore. It's already gone. I'm on to the next thing. My girlfriend knows about my struggles, but she doesn't tell anyone. Do you think it's wrong of me to ask her not to tell my mom or a guidance counselor? Paige. No, I don't think it's wrong of you to ask her to do that. I mean, that sounds like it's something you two probably have to negotiate a little bit in your relationship. I would imagine, I know that if someone I loved, I thought that their health was in danger, I would I would be worried and I would want to seek help for them. But, you know, um, that's something you've kind of got to work out, because trust is really important too. And it might be more important for your health to have that intimacy and that trust between the two of you, rather than, being worried that she's going to sort of tell on you all the time. Maybe she can be there to help you open up to a guidance counselor. Like, maybe she can be a tool to help you reach out and find support. I would definitely encourage you to find a therapist or a support group or something, in addition to your girlfriend, because it's important to have someone who has a bit of expertise in this helping you. But if confidentiality is what you need from her, I don't think it's unreasonable for you to ask that of her. Just know that she might at some point feel she has an obligation to ask for help, you know? Something that my mom did when I was in treatment was she went to therapy herself. And it might be helpful for your girlfriend to seek a therapist for herself, just to sort of help her process what you might be going through. It's sort of like what Al-Anon does for a family of people with alcohol or drug addictions. It's hard to see someone who you love in pain. And we all, as human beings, need support in our lives. I think everyone should be in therapy. But I would encourage you to encourage her to make sure that she's taking care of herself during all of this as well. Do you suggest going to an eating disorder therapist? Yes, I definitely suggest going to a therapist who, yes, 100%. Is family therapy necessary to recovery? No, I don't think it's necessary, but I think it can be incredibly useful. It sort of depends on your relationship with your family, if your eating disorder dynamics are reflected in your family, how much interaction you have with your family. Family members can be an incredible tool to help support a recovery, but not every family. Not every family situation is a good one, and I don't think it's absolutely necessary. But different therapists have different opinions about that. I would say if you feel like your family might be open to it, I would suggest trying it. If your therapist feels like it would be useful for your recovery, I would suggest it. But I would say, like, focus first and foremost on you, and then sort of move to it. I did do family therapy when I was in treatment, and it was really helpful for me. And I think it can be helpful for a lot of people. Do you find any difference when it came to men who had an eating disorder? I can't speak to what it's like being a man with an eating disorder. I would suggest checking out our Binge reviews with Ryan and Jonathan, who are two men we interviewed with eating disorders. What I've heard from them is that it's challenging as a man with an eating disorder because it's seen as such a female issue. So I think there's, an extra layer of weird cultural crap and misogyny that's built in that they have to deal with that we as women don't. But, we're all human beings, and I think a lot of the pain and the suffering we feel is very similar, even if it's manifested differently. But even great families, there's always something to be fixed. And my family therapist changed my life so much. That's awesome, Linda. That's really, really great. Family therapy was really helpful for me too. I think it can be a really wonderful educational tool just because so many parents and family members don't understand eating disorders, and it can be this like really sort of scary, nebulous thing. And sitting down with a therapist and just like learning what they actually are can really take a lot of the fear away from them. I know that it was a really big relief when my mom came and saw the treatment facility that I was at. She saw that it was a great facility, that the therapists were lovely, and she really could throw a lot of trust into the program. Whereas, she had kind of, maybe would have felt a little bit better if I had come home or done therapy, because I live across the country from her, so she was, of course, a little bit nervous. But talking to my therapist, being a part of it, really eased her nerves about it. It can be really helpful. How did you learn to become so open about your struggle with an eating disorder? I want to educate people about it, but I find it hard to be that vulnerable. Claire, totally. It's been a process for me. And it started with writing Binge and sort of opening up to the people, to my friends. And then, as more and more people read the pilot script, and then we shot the show, and then we released the show, and then it kind of went viral, and it all sort of gradually happened. And I've kind of learned as I've gone, but I also have become very involved with this incredible organization called Project Heal, and I did their mentorship training program, which was like an 8-week course. We read Carolyn Costin's book. We did, it was like 5 hours a week of training. So I've also had some training in speaking about it. So, I've tried to educate myself as I've kind of moved into more of a sort of accidental advocacy position. But I'm also a really open person. Not everyone is comfortable with that, and it's totally okay. It's just sort of part of who I am, and it's a useful thing for me in my recovery. It's okay if it's not for everyone. But I definitely start with people who you feel really safe with, your friends and family. The eating disorder community, you are all amazing and loving and supportive and wonderful. I felt so lifted up and strengthened by all of you. I found it's an incredibly loving community. Many of my teenage peers have mild ED behaviors. Where is the line? When should I start getting concerned? Yeah, you can start to see it in a lot of different places. I would say focus on the who and less of the what. Is the who changing? Is your friend in pain? Does your friend seem to be depressed? Are they anxious? Instead of focusing on shape or behavior, focus on who they are, quality of life, those types of things. But I would also say that it's not your responsibility to sort of be the eating disorder police. I understand the impulse, and it's a beautiful one. But it's hard to always know what's going on with people. It's easy to start seeing eating disorders everywhere, and sometimes that is what they are, but sometimes, you never know what else might be going on in that person's life. But being available as a friend, being a loving person who's there to listen, to connect human to human first, I think is the most important thing. How close is Binge to my actual experience? It's pretty close. The relationship with the therapist is the biggest fabrication. My relationships with my therapist were always very professional and lovely, and there were no ethical boundaries pushed. That's sort of a fabricated thing for the drama. But I did accidentally check myself into treatment. I didn't realize it was an eating disorder facility because I was drunk, and accidentally signed up for treatment, thankfully. So that part is true. Let's see. I love you too. How did I open up to my parents? I first opened up to my mom. She actually reminded me about this. I'd kind of forgotten. I had her come into a therapy session with me, and my therapist helped me tell her what was going on. And that was really useful. It was during high school, and I love my mom, and we're very, very close now. But in high school, we fought all the time. I was such a pill. I bless her heart for dealing with me. So I definitely needed help telling her, and the therapist was really helpful in doing that. When I sort of had my big relapse and went again, I called her on the phone and sort of explained what was going on. I sent my dad an email because I was a little bit too afraid to tell him in person. There are a lot of different ways to do it, but I would say, make sure you feel safe and supported. If you have a friend who can be with you, if you can come with materials to give them, a book, some sort of educational information, just because people don't know much about these, that can be a really helpful place to start. How long did I have my eating disorder before I started recovery? So I went to treatment the first time after I'd had an eating disorder for maybe like a year and a half, 2 years. And then I went the last time during about my ninth or 10th year. So my treatment and recovery journey was kind of gradual. But it was definitely there for a pretty big part of my life. Were you shocked to hear that eating disorders had the highest death rate of any mental illness? Yeah. I was shocked, although I shouldn't be, because not only are they incredibly physically dangerous, they take such a toll on your mental health. And I remember feeling so helpless and like there was no way out. And it's such a scary, horrible place to be. And it just breaks my heart that anyone is still struggling, you know? Do I have any tips for a person relapsing? Yes. Call your therapist. Do it tonight, right now. Make that appointment right now. Find your meal plan. Get back on it. Surround yourself with all of the tools that, if it's a relapse, that means you've had some success in moving out of it. Recreate the things that helped you get there the first time. Reach out to the people who know your history. Let them know what's going on so that you have to be accountable for someone. Don't suffer in silence. And don't beat yourself up. It's okay. You've done work before and you'll get out of it again, but take the steps now to make sure it doesn't launch into a full-blown relapse. Oh, yay. Let's see. My mom thought I had an eating disorder, but I convinced her that I'm okay. At the time, I wanted to tell her, please help, but I never did. It would have been so easy to do. How do I tell someone if I'm scared to? I totally understand the fear. What if you wrote a letter? So you don't have to say it out loud. Writing things down can be a way of easing that vulnerability. Saying things out loud, it's so hard and it's so emotional. I wonder if you write it down or have a friend there to support you. Is that something you feel like you might be able to do? My mom feels incredible guilt for contributing. How do I hold her accountable but lessen the guilt? This is a great question and something I would highly recommend therapist involvement for. I think it was you, Quinn, who asked about family therapy, and it sounds like that actually might be really helpful for you. I've mentioned this before, but my mom went to therapy while I was struggling, and it was incredibly helpful for her. I would recommend that your mom see a therapist to work through some of this with. And if you're able to see one together, that could be incredibly beneficial too. There's a lot to unpack in that question, and I would recommend doing it with a therapist, definitely. I'm scared she'll be mad. She was mad at me about my anxiety disorder. Paige, it sounds like she might not be a super safe sounding board then. I would recommend reaching out to a guidance counselor or a therapist and getting their take on the situation. I want to make sure that you're safe and that you're received with love. You know, not everyone is going to react in the ideal way to hearing about these things. But there are steps you can take to make sure you're at least safe and loved during these vulnerable experiences. So I would recommend talking to a guidance counselor about it. I'm wondering if you write in the letter, maybe you could write out some of your fears. I'm afraid you'll feel this. Maybe provide her with some educational material to help her know to learn about eating disorders. But I would definitely recommend talking to a therapist about it and using the therapist as support during that time. Claire, I want to tell my mom about my eating disorder, but so many of my behaviors are picked up for her. I'm afraid she'll feel that guilt. Claire, it sounds like you're taking on your mom's emotional experience instead of doing what you need to be healthy. I would say that it would be, I would say, can your mom go to therapy? Everyone's mom needs therapy. Everyone needs therapy. Um, I would say prioritize yourself and your needs first. And if there is a way that you can gently say, hey, mom, here's how you can support me when I'm at home. And instead of using you statements like, when you do this, you do these things, maybe say, here are some things that I need. Um, and give her some parameters and some boundaries that are focused more on you and your needs and what will be helpful for you and less on things that she does. Does that make sense? Do you feel there's a lot of pressure having to take on the responsibility of giving advice to eating disorder sufferers? Is it something you enjoy? Um, I wouldn't say I feel pressure, but I definitely feel a desire to give back. Um, it is something that I enjoy. It's sort of a new part of my life and my recovery, and it's been a really cool experience. I'm working as a mentor with Project Heal right now, volunteering with them, and that's been really great. Um, it's been a really beautiful way to connect with the community and to sort of solidify my own journey. It's definitely something I enjoy. I always have this fear that I'm not going to say the right thing or that, you know, I don't want to give anyone bad advice ever because I'm not a professional. I'm just a writer. I don't know. I'm just a girl. But I'm just trying, I just aim to be authentic, and I always say, like, I want to default to a professional's opinion every time, but, you know, uh, it can be so lonely to be in the thick of these illnesses, and I want you to all know that you're not alone and that there is hope and that there is an other side of this thing and that you'll get there, you know. Um, let's see. Have you always wanted to be an actor? I have always wanted to be an actor. How can I go to therapy if my mom refuses to take me and I have no way to go? It's a great question. Um, is there a guidance counselor at school, or do you have access to the internet? If you do, I know that there are online support groups and online therapists that you can seek out. But I would definitely, if you can find a guidance counselor to talk to in person, that's what I would suggest first and foremost. But if that's not a possibility for you, seeking an online community um, can be a super, super helpful thing too. Oh, how can I help my 10-year-old develop a healthy relationship with food? Oh, that question both warms and breaks my heart. um, I think maybe by first and foremost taking care of yourself and continuing to work on yourself. I don't know. I'm not a mom. Oh, that's a hard question. You know, give them love. I don't know. Does anyone have advice on that? Are there any other mothers on here? Um, my mom is wonderful, and she has always been very non judgmental. She has a little bit of a head start because she's a nurse. Um, and so, sort of, a lot of the fear around health issues is taken away because she's dealt with so many in her job. Um, and she's always just done a really good job of taking care of herself and being able to be a healthy person. I think your kids will pick up on that. But if you struggle, if you have times that are bad, don't beat yourself up because you're a human being and you're allowed to go through hard times. And kids are gonna get fucked up from something one way or another, right? Like that's unavoidable. As much as we hate to think about it. Um, but I think, if all of us together keep working to change the culture, hopefully we can make a better world for your children. Um, My thoughts on eating disorder sites. Yeah, it's kind of like what you said, Mr. Mick. Like, they can be great forms of community, but they can also be triggering spaces. So I think that's something that you have to sort of feel out from site to site. Is this more helpful for me or more triggering for me? Sort of weigh the two. And if you find that it's more triggering, maybe it's not the best place for you. And maybe there are other places you can find support. We've been thinking about trying to do some sort of forum on the Binge website. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? If we should try that? I just really want to make sure that it's a pro recovery space. Oh, there are so many good questions. Um, I love you all so much. How do I open up about the causes of my eating disorder? Would that be needed in order for me to recover? It's a hard thing to talk about, and I don't know where to start. It's a lot. One day at a time, one meal at a time. You don't have to look at all of that crap right now. Start by doing what you need to do to make yourself feel okay now. To always strive to make the next best decision, right? You don't have to go to all of those icky places in one day. It's a gradual opening up process. Just start with, what can you do today to make today a positive day? How can you stick to your meal plan today? How can you love yourself a little bit more today? And then once you're in a space where you're able to get therapy and work with a professional, you can get into that bigger, scarier stuff. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we'll think about doing a forum. So we're going to be, Yuri and I and the whole team are going to live stream tomorrow night at around this time, and maybe a little bit earlier too. I have to get going now, but I want to answer all of your questions, and I know I didn't get to all of them. So tune back in tomorrow night. We'll probably do it at around 6 p.m. Pacific time, but we'll be doing it kind of in and out all night. So if you want to make sure not to miss an update, you can subscribe to the HLG YouTube channel once you log off of this. But I want to be able to talk to all of you. Thank you so much for being here and your thoughtful questions. You're all on the right track. Keep fighting. It gets better, I promise. I love you all. You're all amazing. Bina believes in you. You can tell by how loud she's snoring. Mwah, mwah, mwah.